Good morning, folks. My name's Alex Stanhope, and this is a talk about a positive future for AI. AI, or artificial intelligence, often portrayed in a very scary way. Here we have an image of the Terminator from James Cameron's 1984 classic, The Terminator. This was a homicidal robot determined to kill Sarah Connor. This is the HAL 9000 from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, an amazing film about a quite scary computer that again had homicidal tendencies. The images from science fiction all share this in common. We've been told stories about how scary computers are and how particularly scary artificial intelligence is. The world in which we live is changing. Jamais Cascio talked about a BANI or BANI world, which was brittle, anxious, brittle, anxious, non-linear and incomprehensible, much like my notes. And I think this applies to AI. So around AI, there is a kind of AI anxiety. I feel a certain degree of anxiety about what this future will look like, especially one with such change in it. I don't know what it will mean for my job or my career. I don't know what it will mean for my children. On some level, I wonder about what it will mean for humankind. But in this talk and in the series of talks that are going to follow it, I'm going to talk about a positive future, why I shouldn't be afraid of it, and what I need to do to be prepared for it. The theme of this talk is understanding it. So I want to talk a little bit about what AI is, how it works, a simple model for how AI fits into the grander scheme of things. And to do that, I'm going to talk about computer science, but not in a scary way. This is about very much the sort of elemental aspects of computer science that I think underpin all of this. Functions. What is a function? Well, a function is very simple. A function takes an input and translates it to an output. There's some kind of mapping between the set of input parameters, those are the things that come into the function, and the output it produces. This is an example of a function. This is one that I asked ChatGPT to produce. So I asked it this question and it produced this amazing function, incredibly simple, with a whole load of text that explains what it was. Absolutely amazing. It took less than 15 seconds to produce this. Looking at the function it produced, well, it's done it in Python. I hope this is relatively intelligible. The function here is called calculate rectangle area. It takes just two parameters, length and width, and it's taking those two parameters, length times width, to produce area. And then it returns that area as the output. So we had a couple of simple input parameters and it produced an output. Now we can add some more parameters to that. Here is another example. This one adds a third parameter, and you can see how the complexity increases as I add a third parameter. This one takes depth as well as length and width. So this function, calculate cuboid volume, calculates the area initially, but it then builds on that calculation to calculate the volume. So area being length times width, and then volume, it multiplies area times depth. Returns that volume. When we talk about AI is just a function. It takes an input, it produces an output. Now, how it's used by human beings is remaining to be seen. I'm sure there'll be a whole array of cost-cutting things, and we all probably have loads of whole new frustrations to look forward to in call centers and chat things as we start dealing with AI robots rather than human beings. But away from that, the underpinnings of AI, the actual basics of what it is and how it works, is very simple. It's just these functions. The number of parameters involved, though, are a lot higher. We're not talking about 2 or 3. In fact, artificially intelligent systems, as this diagram illustrates, moved on from dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of parameters in the late 60s. Currently, we're looking at AI models that have billions of parameters, if not more. ChatGPT 3, which is the currently free available of that very popular AI system by OpenAI, currently has 175 billion parameters. ChatGPT 4 has 100 trillion parameters. Now this is a massive amount of input. If you can just visualize for a second with this diagram just how many zeros we're talking about. This is a level of complexity that makes my trivial example of 2 or 3 parameters in the function look exactly what it is, a very simple and naive example of how these things work to illustrate a much more complex point. But the essence of it is exactly the same. Now the inner workings of the function when it comes to AI are complicated. I'm going to talk in the next talk about models and how those models work. Those models fall into a number of different categories, lots of different kinds of ways of writing functions. In the AI field, there is a sort of statistical group, things like linear and logistic regression, k-nearest neighbor, naive Bayes classifiers. There's another area around support vector machines, predominantly around vector mathematics. One of the reasons why graphics cards, such as NVIDIA graphics cards, are incredibly good at dealing with this stuff is that they are very, very fast at dealing with vectors, and that's become one of the underpinnings for doing these large calculations, and one of the reasons why that stock has seen enormous growth, because NVIDIA make a technology that's incredibly good at training and processing artificial networks. Another area around neural networks, often referred to as deep neural networks, because as the level of complexity between the inputs and the outputs becomes multi-tiered, these strata lead to a deep neural network, and I'll talk a little bit more about that next time. And then there's another area around decision trees, if then else type situations where we can group those together into random forests. And this is a sort of a very quick aggregate view of the kind of the way AI models work. Now, there's bags of complexity in the models, and we don't need to necessarily get into all of that to actually understand how AI functions and what it means for each of us individually as we carve out a new path through this exciting positive future. What we can do is use it, understand it, and integrate it. So what I'd encourage you to do is right now, pop a tab. You can go to one of any number of providers. Facebook have just released Llama. I mentioned OpenAI's ChatGPT. All these things are available with free prompts. Equally, ChatGPT have just released ChatGPT 4, which is that 100 trillion parameter model that generated some of the content of this talk, and that's available for about $20 a month, but it'll be interesting to see how this gets monetized. I'd encourage you to use it. Try and find opportunities in the day to throw a few words at it, because I'm finding as I go through this process, the more of that I do, the better I can understand it. Especially at times when I don't know what I'm doing, the more I can embrace that sense of this is great, this feels unusual, this feels uneasy, I don't know quite what this will mean, I don't know why I'm trying to do this or what. That is the essence, if you like, of the bit where I feel I learn the most. What I've found is that it's there to help us think. AI has this capability to augment human capability, and we've been doing it for years. Mobile phones, now a fairly pervasive technology, literally billions of smartphones in the world, and they serve a useful purpose, not only for communication between human beings who are not geolocated together, but more than that, to augment our existing skills. My mobile phone doesn't do much creative thinking for me, but it does help me remember when birthdays are. So I have Google Calendar that serves the function of telling me on the 21st of July which of my friends have a birthday today. Information that I don't keep in my head, and I delegate out to a device that supports me. I think AI will serve exactly that same purpose. We're going to see more and more of this sort of augmenting of human capability, and AI, because of its highly connected nature, because of the breadth of information that it could store, not only in its trained samples, but then in terms of the information it can access over the internet, it's going to enable obviously something much more profound than just my birthday example. But what that looks like is for you and I to discover, and that's only going to be possible by using it, understanding it, and integrating it. My job used to be about using technology. It used to be about coding and so on, and then it was about leading teams of people who use technology to produce products and so on. Increasingly, it's become about helping companies think and organize. And I don't know what business transformation is going to look like in an AI positive future, but I know that I'm going to discover it by using it, understanding it, and integrating it. There'll be more talks in this series. Please get involved in the comments. Thanks for watching.